hello to our online campus. We know that we've got a ton of people watching on there lately, and we're thankful that all of you guys are here or joining us online. And we're going to finish up this series today. So a couple things. As we finish this up, afterwards, right after church, I don't know if you guys saw the announcements video, but a lot of you guys kind of wandered in a little late. We're going to head over to the Walmart in Sassoon, so it's on the corner of Highway 12 and Walters Road, and we're going to start collecting school supplies. We're going to drive our bus over, and our goal is to collect as much school supplies as possible for the Travis School District. And so we've adopted a school, so we're going to provide school supplies to one school regardless, but we'd like to be able to take care of all of their schools if we can. So we're going to go over, we're going to try and reach this community, and we're going to just stand up. We've gotten permission from Walmart to be able to be inside the store and handing out flyers and to be able to, in the breezeway, to collect there. So we need some help. If you can help us, that would be awesome. We're only doing it from 1 to, I think, 3 or 4, but if it stays busy after that, then we'll just continue doing it to kind of reach the community. So we're asking for some help for that right after service. So we're going to head over there and be there at 1. But let's dive into this last week of this message. And so we've been talking about the things that separate, and really nothing will separate us. And a lot of times what happens is it's us that separates us. You know, one of the things that Daniel really teaches us, and that I really got from Daniel, is years ago I read a book by, if you can bring it down a little bit, I can hear myself peeking. I read a book by an author called Mark Batterson, and Mark Batterson wrote this book called In the Pit with a Lion on a Snowy Day. And he's talking about Daniel, and he's talking about that Daniel just didn't have this fear. That Daniel was able to stand out and to really step out and go, I'm going to do what God has asked me to do, and I'm not going to have this fear that holds me back. Because that's what happens to us a lot, is that fear holds us back. From giving, fear holds us back. From following God's instruction, fear holds us back. From actually being faithful in public, fear holds us back. It's fear all the time. What are people going to say? What are people going to do? How are people going to respond? That fear causes us to kind of collapse and start going, oh, I can't. And it makes it to where we become very timid. And instead of living the life out loud that God asked us to, we end up becoming closet Christians. And by closet is that you end up not really living your faith out. You've tried to get God to be in this box that you've kind of created. You go, well, I'll unbox God during group. And then I'll put him back in. As I get to the parking lot, I'm going to spend a couple extra minutes in the car and put God back in that box, and then turn back on my rap music that's talking about killing people. And then I'm going to pull out here. Not all rap music talks about that. There's great Christian rap music, but then you go, okay, well, and then on Sunday morning I'll unbox him again until the end of service, and then I'll put him back in that box because that's when it fits for me. You know, and that's not what Jesus asked us to do. He didn't say, I want your leftovers and I like being a genie that you let me out every once in a while. I don't want to be I use the term cosmic Christian, this cosmic Coke machine to where you call on me when you need something. That you want to show up, you want to hit the button, and all of a sudden you expect me to dispense exactly what you're looking for. And when I don't do that, you get upset about it. And see, the thing is that that's how we treat our relationship with God. We go, oh, you didn't give. What happened? Something's wrong. Something's wrong with God. And Daniel shows us completely opposite. When you start reading, and I just encourage you to read through this, is that Daniel is faced with, and he knows what's coming, and there's this option, and he's faced with having to be thrown into the lion's den. And so you hear this and you go, the lion's den. Now, we're not talking, so years ago I had this opportunity to go down to Six Flags, and we knew a tiger trainer, and he took us into the background, and he introduced us to the lion, and if you go to the lion's area there, so if anybody in here ever been to Six Flags at all, anybody, maybe? And so behind the scenes there's 3 cages, and there's a red line on the ground, and he goes, don't cross that red line. And I go, well, why not? He said, that's what his reach is. He'll reach out and pull you into his cage with him. That's what the line was, exactly. He's all, if you cross that red line and you don't have what he's looking for, you could be the dinner that we're trying to feed him right now. And we went from there. So you have this animal that's, I'm telling you, is that when you see it, and it's like right there, I mean, the only thing that's separating you is 3 feet and chain link, you realize how big this animal is, and you appreciate that it could eat you. You really you look at it and go, I could be dinner easily for this animal. I would easily get him through until his next meal, especially me. Yeah. But we went from there, and we went to the medical facility that they have there. They had this little medical, the little area where they have all these animals that are on display. But in the back, they had these tigers, little baby tiger cubs, and we have pictures of us holding and petting a tiger cub, and you look at it and you go, how does this animal? And these aren't the little cuddly cubs these are. So when you look at what Daniel is facing the one that was right there, right beyond that was going to eat me for lunch. Not the ones that we got to go pet and these are so cute. Can we have one? Well, it will eat you later too. But and so we had this opportunity. It was like, man, this is awesome. We got to meet them. Well, even today I go and I see those exact same tigers there, and I look and I go, I'm pretty sure I could be dinner. I'm pretty sure it's looking at me as if I am dinner. Because if you watch, they will watch you. If you walk past any of those cages, they watch you. And they look at you and they go, if I could get over this fence somehow, that one's done. And the bad part is, the weaker you look, the more that it starts to want to target you. So I will tell you is walk by, head up, and just be like, oh, I'm good. Don't worry about that. But so in this situation is that he stands tall. We have to stand tall with these animals. I know I kind of got a little off track there. And I'll tell you is that at this point when Daniel's getting ready to face these lions, is that Daniel is not a young man. Daniel's not like, he's in his 20s, he's in great shape, he's got this, he's going to just go down there and he's going to take on these lions. No, Daniel is 80. And I don't know, anybody in here know any super fit 80-year-olds that are ready to take over and take on a lion? Renee knows one person. There's one person in this world. But I'm telling you is that he's 80. And so this is Daniel 6 that we're in. So if you have a Bible, open up to Daniel 6. And we're talking about King Darius. And this is the third king that Daniel had served under. And this king is an administrative genius. When you start looking at it, he is just an administrative genius. He realizes that he cannot do it on his own. And so he starts and he appoints about 120 satraps, and satraps, and he appoints these, and they're kind of like, just imagine like governors of areas. So we have governors here. It's very the same thing there. And they were governors, and they kind of ruled the area, and they took care of things. They kind of were protectors. And over those 120 protectors, he divided them up, and he created 3 administrators. And he said, you guys can probably take care of about 40. Each one of you can take care of 40. And so we'll appoint the 3 of you to kind of watch over those 120. Job was to kind of prevent rebellion. They collected taxes. They looked after the national finance matters. They would be the exact same thing as governors in our area now. They're the ones in charge of the roads. They're trying to take care of all that stuff. And so when you start listening at this, and it said it pleased Darius to appoint 100 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them so the king might not suffer loss. Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators and satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. So now, he's got 2 other buddies that are doing the same job. And this is kind of where these earthly things start to matter to us. When there's 3 of us, right? And so, just kind of give you an instance. You all work at the same place, and none of you are kind of supervisors. You're all, let's just say we're talking Lucky's, Lucky Supermarket. And you're all 3 cashiers, right? All of a sudden, one of you gets promoted to lead cashier. And now you're the boss of everybody there. You're the one in charge. But you were just all buddies just before. You were out talking sports in the parking lot or or talking about, maybe it's women and you were talking about jewelry. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things. But you were just all talking that. All of a sudden, things have changed. You're no longer, hey, we can go talk and hang out like we used to. Now you're like, wait a minute, you're my boss. And so things kind of change a little bit, right? And maybe you even look at it a little differently. Maybe you go, well, why did you get promoted? Why didn't I get promoted? What happened there? Your qualifications, but see, Daniel had better qualifications. And they're going, and so jealousy started to arise. So this jealousy starts to arise, and they start going, hey, well, we got to fix this. We can't have this. And so that jealousy gets to this point where they go, okay, we're going to get Daniel. We're going to fix this. And see, for me, I don't look at this and I go, I don't understand how they don't even think long term. They got to realize that one of them is going to be placed in charge again, right? They're going to be doing this to one another after that. And so they see this. So they get jealous. They make this plan to take him down. Now, Daniel just stays strong to this. When something like this starts going on, you can kind of hear it and you can kind of feel it. And you go, well, I have an option. I can go what I'm supposed to do, and I can stand strong and keep going in the direction that God has asked me to, or I can let people tear me backwards and tear me down. And what we have to do is, in order to kind of stay strong and to keep focused, well, there's some truths that you should look at. And it says when God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. When God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. When you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, expect people behind you to be trying to pull you backwards or tear you down. You get excited about your faith, expect people to question it. Expect people to be like, why are you doing that? What's that happening? When you start doing what you're supposed to do, you get promoted to your job, expect the people to be talking about it behind you. Expect everybody to be starting going, well, why did he get promoted? Why wasn't it me? Well, did you know about this? He stole office supplies yesterday. I took a pen home. I'm sorry. I brought it back. But those are the things. When you get blessed, when somebody blesses you, expect somebody to talk about that. As you're starting to grow forward, as you start reading, as your ministry grows, expect people to be tearing it down. Expect that. When God raises you up, expect people to tear you down. Verse 4, at this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds and charges against Daniel and his conduct of governmental affairs, but they were unable to do so. So they went digging, they went looking, and they go, okay, we're going to find something. We're going to get something on Daniel. They can't find anything on him. They could find no corruption because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men said, we will never find any basis for the charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with his God. Unless it has something to do with his God, with the law of his God. So they start going through and they go, well, what do we do here? And Daniel, I'm telling you, he's watching all of this happen, and he hears all this happen, and he hears all this going on, and Daniel just keeps staying strong, and he keeps doing. And see, the thing is that when we're serving God, we think that nothing should go wrong. We think that everything's going to be perfect. I'm going to tell you is that as we're serving God, you're going to face more opposition than ever. When you're doing what God has asked you to do, you're going to face more opposition than ever. I'm going to be honest with you. You decided to make that tithe decision today, you write out a tithe check, you're going to get a flat tire on the way home. Why? Because you're going to face that opposition. The devil goes, oh, well, wait a minute. They're starting to put faith in God. Well, we got to rein that back in. We got to fix this. When you get to this point and you start looking at it and you go, well, I'm going to start doing this that God has asked me to do. I'm going to start doing this ministry. I'm going to start going in this direction. Or God's going to start sending people to discourage you. I wouldn't go in that direction. That doesn't sound very fun. You're not going to. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be people to tear you down. When you start doing these things, they're going to start all these things are going to happen. As you start going closer, there's going to be things that are going to pull you down and pull you back. And you're going to start finding that when you start stepping out for God, things may go wrong. It's not going to be perfect. If you're not ready to face opposition for obedience to God, you're not ready to be used by God. Do you know that? If you're not ready to face opposition for having obedience towards God, you're not ready to be used by God. It's tough, and that's a hard thing to say. These two other administrators, they come out and they go, we got to figure something out. And so they go to Darius. And they convince him. They butter him up. They take him and they go over there and they go, hey, what do we got to do? They bring him alcohol. They butter him up. They literally go, we need to be able to offer this direction. And they get him to issue a law that anyone that prays to anyone other than Darius for the next 30 days gets thrown into the lion's den. And Darius, that's a great idea. I like that. Bow down to me. He's a guy. Guys want that type of stuff, right? And so he agrees. And so what do you think Daniel does? Do you think Daniel goes, it's just 30 days. I'll stop praying. I'll just relax. I can hang out. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll pray silently. That's what I'll do. Instead of doing what God has asked me to do, I'm just going to pray silently. I'm going to go and just go. Or does he keep praying and risk death? How did he have such faith? Did anybody recently, it's been in the last year or so, that Christians have been attacked in the Middle East. And a gentleman back there said, either you need to denounce your Christian faith and follow Muslims, or we're going to shoot you in the face right now. And so this has happened several times, and the story I have, this guy goes, I'll have faith now. And if God doesn't save me, I'll still have faith. And they shot him in the face, and he lived. You hear the stories about the opposite direction. You hear the stories about, being told that. But the thing is if somebody comes to you and goes, what's your faith like? Where are you at? What do you have going on? What's your, and they go, if you don't denounce that, I'm going to shoot you in the face right now. You go, okay. Who's God? I don't know. I don't know who that is. Is that how your response is? Because I can tell you is that deep in your core, whatever you feel that response is right now, however you're responding to that inside of your head, because you don't want to admit to it, because you're like, I think I would walk away. Or maybe you're like, I'll take a bullet to the dome. I don't know. But however that is, that response in you, that just tells you what your sacrifice level is for God. How much are you willing to give? How much are you ready to step out and go, God, I don't care what the punishment is, use me. Make me that tool. I want to be. So what I pray for in the morning when I get up and I go, God, make me the tool you look for every time you go to the tool shed. When you need something done, I want to be that tool. I want to be the one that you go and you'll grab every time. I want to be that trusty tool. Every guy has a tool that they almost always will keep in their tool belt. Almost always. You go open it up, you open it up and it's most of the guys it's a hammer, or maybe they got this favorite pair of pliers, or I want to be the one that God grabs for every time. It's always in his tool belt. I want to be that one. You can't be that tool if you're always going, well, I'm scared of this, or I'm scared of that, or I'm scared of how people are going to respond, or I'm scared of getting hurt. Getting hurt is what's going to happen if you're going to follow God and do what he asks you to do. You are going to get hurt, you are going to have struggles, you are going to have issues, and you are going to face trials. It will not be perfect. It won't. That's how we grow, and that's how we get closer, and that's how we start knowing that God provides and takes care of us. That's how we know, by how well he provides through those times of trials, how he continues to protect us. Guys, look at this. Anybody in here been in a car accident? Have you been in a car accident that you thought you shouldn't have walked away from? I had a car accident that I had thought I was sitting in the car, in the ditch, sideways. I had 6 other people in the car with me. We were driving outrageously fast, or I was driving outrageously fast. They were laughing. They thought it was funny, right until we almost went into the drain pipe. So I took this is an old 73 Chevy station wagon. I know, it's not glamorous at all. It wasn't pretty. It started, and it drove, and it went fast enough to put 3/4 of it into a drain pipe. So a 6-foot drain pipe, just want you to think about that. So about my height, I drove the car fast enough to when we went into the ditch, the front half of the car went into the drain pipe. It was all condensed into there, and and I was sitting there and I was looking around. I go, yeah, we're not getting out of this one, guys. We're not driving home. I don't care if we get it back on the street or not. It's not going anywhere. The thing is that nobody was hurt in the car. Not a single person. Not a single person had a scratch, and I'll tell you right now, nobody was buckled. And so I step back and I go, God, you must have something amazing in store for me. You must have something amazing in store for me, because if you didn't take me then, well, you know, because that was the time. It could have happened right there. And you see, these things you start looking at, and you start going, and you start looking at all the things that God has saved you from. And he's protected you, and you start questioning, and he goes, oh, well, I gotta worry about him protecting me from my friends. Well, if you're worried about that, then they're probably not your friends. If you gotta worry about sharing your faith with your friends, and they go, you're a Christian? Those aren't your friends. Those are people that are trying to tear you down and pull you backwards. You know, oh, you're gonna go on a mission trip? You're gonna waste a week's vacation to go do that? Yeah. Because I actually love other people. Well, Daniel stays strong. This happens, and he just stands up and he goes, man, and see, the thing is that when you watch this, even when this pressure starts coming down, the first thing that Daniel does is he kneels down. And kneeling to pray often gives you the strength to stand. Kneeling down to pray is what gives you the strength to stand. And that's what he does. He kneels down and he prays. And he continues to seek God. And he goes, you know what? This is the direction I'm supposed to go. Now, when Daniel learned that the decree had been passed, had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. And 3 times a day he got on his knees and he prayed, giving thanks to his God just as he had done before. Well, for everybody else, what's our first response? We tend to panic. We run. We hide. We tend to run off and go do our own thing. Our first response to our troubles or our pain should never be to panic. It should be to pray. That's what our first response should be. It should be. It should always be. Whenever something comes up, you just always go into prayer. That's the direction we go. The problem is, we do it backwards. We get to this mindset and we go, I've done everything else. All I can do now is pray. All I can do now is just pray. No. Start with prayer. That should be where you start at. You should start by prayer first. God, which direction do you want me to go? God, what do you want me to do here? God, what am I supposed to do? God, how am I supposed to act? The problem is we go, well, I've done everything else that I can do on my own power. Well, there's nothing else that can be done. I'll just ask God to do it now. Why not ask him and seek him divinely first? Now, the other thing is, Daniel doesn't go announce it. He doesn't go running around going, hey, everybody, I'm going to go pray right now. He doesn't do that. He doesn't go shout it out from the rooftops. He just goes and prays. He doesn't hashtag it on he doesn't go on Facebook and go, I'm so spiritual. He doesn't do that. You know what he does is he actually starts to go and he just goes and prays and he seeks God. He doesn't start going after all these other things. He does what he's asked to. And the thing is that if you look at it, he had done it before. And he continues to do what he had done. He doesn't go and change. It was already pre-decided. I will seek God. That's the direction I'm going to go. I will seek God. I'm not going to let anything else separate me. I will seek God. I will tell you that there is something that is humbling about kneeling before God. I will tell you that right now. A couple years ago, about 6 or 7 years ago, Melissa and I went to youth camp. So it must have been maybe even longer than that. Maybe it was, I think Haley was like 2 or 3. So we go there and we go to youth camp, and And as we get there on Sunday. We get there a day early before all the campers show up. And this youth pastor, his name's Mike as well, he goes, let's pray as the Bible says that we're supposed to pray. He says, everybody let's get down on our knees. And we got down on our knees and we prayed. And I will tell you that there was something that changed that day in that room after that meeting as we sat there. And oftentimes, if you look for me when you guys are worshiping, a lot of times I'm at that prayer wall and praying on my knees, because I just know, and I'm asking, and I go over there. I'm like, God, use me as a tool. Use me to allow me to be this vessel. Speak through me. Use me. And I always say I'm not worthy to be doing this, because God, I know that I look back at my past and I go, you have to be in control. You have to be the one doing this. And so I seek and I seek and I seek. And then I get up here, and a lot of times that's why you guys are wondering, why does it take so long to get into the message sometimes? Because I'm trying to do it on my own instead of letting God have control. And I'm just telling you, as you start looking at this, there's just something about kneeling that changes things. It just does. How did he stand? He stood strong before men, and he knelt before God. That's what he did. When life gives you more than you can stand, kneel. You get cancer? Kneel. You have money issues? Kneel. You have kids? I'm not blaming you right now. It's actually in my notes. Kneel. We have to say that, so you just have to start doing some things. You have to take this stand. Years ago, I was asked to coach soccer on an all-star team, and they go, and the question comes down to is that I asked the question. I said, well, when are the games? They're on Sundays. I can't do that. I have church, and that's my first priority. I will be there. Well, you can miss a Sunday. That's exactly what they said. I said, well, so first of all, I'm the pastor of the church, but no, I can't miss a Sunday. It's kind of weird when the guy's not here that's supposed to be preaching. But they go, you can just miss a Sunday, or 3 or 4 of them. No, I can't do that. Well, will your daughter participate? You don't really want her on this team. No. But you have to start taking a stand. When you have to start going, when it's going to interfere with what's important, you go, no, I'll be there. No, that's wrong. No, I'll take care of that. It's like you see these things, these hashtags on bullying or hashtags on this or whatever it is. That's not taking a stand. By the way, that hashtag, that is a pound button. That is the pound signal. It's been the same thing forever and ever. Hashtag is nothing. Pound. It used to be what ended your page. When you sent somebody a page, this is my number, pound, send it. It's the end of something. Take a stand. Don't hashtag something and be like, oh, it's going to change the world. That changes nothing. It makes you look, never mind. Hashtag Edge Community Church. See how bad that sounds? Even makes you laugh. You're like, yeah, that really does sound kind of weird. I mean, it's worse, pound Edge Community Church. Yeah, put that in. Anyway, guys, let's start looking at this. Where are you taking a stand at? And where are you going? I'm not going to compromise my values for this. You not do the business deal because you know that somebody is getting cheated or it's lacking integrity. Or do you break up with somebody because they're pushing you to have sex before marriage? What happens if my kid doesn't make the team? Okay. You're going to fight over that? You fight when you don't get a promotion? You fight, or you start looking at these things. Look at this question. Look at Daniel. He goes, what if the lions eat me? What if the lions eat me? What's the question for you? What happens if I don't go here? I'm probably going to save some money. What happens if I don't get this happen? Daniel has, if I take a stand right now, there's a good likelihood that I'm dinner. Tonight, I am dinner. For us, that's not how it works. If we take a stand, we might alienate somebody who we think is our friend. But chances are they're probably not our friend. If they don't believe the same things that we believe, and you're not trying to convince them of that, and when you do talk about it, they're like, I hate you. I don't know if you want to hang out with that person. And you start going, where are you taking the stand? Where do you go? I'm going to draw this imaginary line in the sand. Where do you go that? And go, I'm not going to go any further than that. There's no guarantee that nothing bad will ever happen to you by following God. There's no guarantee. What I can tell you is that this is not a Disney movie. You know, you don't kiss the frog and all of a sudden the prince shows up or the princess or whatever. You end up with warts. Kiss away. You know, but that's what we're trying to think. That's how we act. We get to this mindset and we go, oh, everything's going to be magical. If the Prince Charming shows up or Princess Charming or whatever. If they show up, it's going to be just amazing. And see, the thing is, when we're following and doing what God has asked us to do, we will face troubles. In fact, the Bible tells us, it says you will face this and more. You will face these troubles and more. And yet Daniel takes a stand. But I can promise you is when you do what is right, you can always trust God with the results. That's what I can promise you. You can look at it and just know when you're doing what God has asked you to do. See, the thing is, we know how our story ends when we follow what God has asked us to do. We have paradise. We know. It doesn't matter. I know we're looking at this and go, well, I might die young. Well, you might die in a car accident young. You might die, and there's just been times where I've felt my chest like it's going to explode on my chest, and I go, oh my gosh, my heart comes out right now. God, please make sure that I'm in your good graces because I want to be there. You know, when you get that mindset, and I don't, it's not even going, I'm going to call 911. I go, no, I want to call God. God, I want to be right with you. If it's coming, if it's the time now, I want to be right there. We know what those results are when we follow Him. The problem is that we don't trust Him with them. You know, we're going, I want God to give me what I want. We want to treat it like it's our wedding registry or something. You know, it's pretty funny, is that I'll give you So Melissa and I, when we got married, we got registered. We went and registered at Macy's. I don't know why we did that. So we don't know any rich friends, okay? Just tell you that right now. We don't know any rich people like that, and we certainly didn't need any of the stuff we registered for, okay? So we walked along, and we're starting. You know, they give you these guns, right? They give little scanners that you go scan stuff with. And get to the first item and scan. You know, there's like 5 toaster ovens or whatever, and Melissa goes, "Yeah, just scan a toaster oven, just any one of those." And what do? Instead of scanning the $30 one, we go, "Oh, there's a $300 one. Scan that one." Bink. You know, and then you go to the next one. You go to the next item. You go to the next item. Well, what makes this funny is that we scanned a plate set, right? We didn't, you know, we scanned, and when you buy expensive china and stuff like that, you know how it comes, right? Per piece. It doesn't come by like setting. It comes, you scan one plate, you get one plate. That's what it is. You scan one cup, you get one cup. So we put like 12 of each. We're like, we're going to entertain. We're going to have parties at the house. Woo! We got one of each. One. And so I go into the kitchen every once in a while. I look up on the top shelf, and there's that one setting. And I go, I look at it all the time, and I go, man, I wonder if they'll take that back now. You know, I can go get a full set now for what that costs. You know, but there's a lot of times you look at it and you go, we always try and expect so much more than what we're ever really. You know, we're going, I got to get all the best. And we try and demand that stuff. And we go, I'm going to put this on this person. I'm going to put this on that person. And the reality, guys, is that God says that I'm going to give you your needs. I'm going to provide for those. I'm not going to provide the 12-place set. That's expensive. I think if we would have got it all, it would have been like $1,700 for the plates. Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous, right? Isn't that how we kind of ask of God, though? Isn't that what we kind of ask? God, I just need one plate. In fact, the one that gets used a lot is the one that the kids have made. It's when I was a little kid, we used to. That's the type of things that you did at school. Like when you're in kindergarten, you'd make a plate, and then you draw. You do it. Not the plate, not the actual plate itself, but you draw on it, and then your mom would use that like every meal. That would be the plate because that's the one that would actually matter. That was the one that was important. What is it that you hold important? Are you trying to trying to go after all these possessions and taking a stand when you go, I didn't get my $1,700 plate set? Or do you take the one and you go, man, why isn't the schools doing that type of stuff anymore? And take a stand and go, why aren't the schools having sports? Or why aren't the schools doing this? Or why isn't our government isn't actually taking care of the people that are in need? Why is it that there's, guys, right now, last night, 197 people in Fairfield alone slept on the streets. Just yesterday. That was last night. 197. That doesn't include those that are in shelters. So if you're going, oh, yeah, the mission, we'll count. No. 197 people in Fairfield slept on the streets. We go one town away, we go to Vallejo, that number doubles. In this county, 700 people put their heads down on concrete and sleep outdoors every night in this county. That's where we should take a stand. Why is it that that's not being taken care of? Why is it that out of that, almost a quarter of them are veterans? People that have served this country and made it to where we can have these freedoms right now. Why don't we take a stand? Why is it that when our faith gets questioned and our laws are passed in this country that affect 3/10 of a population instead of 99.7, that we don't take a stand? Something wrong here. Why is it that when our faith starts to get trampled on, that we don't take a stand and go, I will not go in that direction? And you start looking at these things and you go, yeah, why aren't we taking a stand there? And it's because of us in this room right now. And you go, oh, it's not my fault. It is. It's each and every one of our faults because we allow it to happen. And we don't take the stand. And we're not seeking God. And we're not spending time in prayer. And we continue to go, somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else will do it. We expect the government to do it. Instead, it's supposed to be us. This is a government of the people, by the people. Not by the legislators. Stop waiting on them when God has said, I want you to do something. Just because they pass a law doesn't mean that it's right. Just because they pass a law doesn't mean that it's going to fix something. It takes us to do it. You keep going, oh, this next person's going to be great. Who cares? You can be great. I tell you, you go, oh, it's just me, or it's me and 50 others, or it's me and 75 others. Guys, do you know how many Christians there are in the world today? Just today. There's 2 billion Christians in the world. I'm sorry. Just in America, there's 200 million Christians, or self-proclaimed Christians. Now let's just take the numbers out and just go exponentially larger than that. 200 million right here. Do you know how many there were at first? There was 12. There was 12 of them. 2,000 years ago, there was 12 of them. They made a lasting impact that continued to go and go and go because they took a stand. They didn't care what was going to happen. They knew that it could be bad. And in fact, it was bad for almost all of them. It was really bad. You know, some of them were speared, stoned, crucified upside down. Guys, we have to take a stand and start standing up because that's actually what makes the changes. And that's what makes things different in our culture and what makes things where we continue to allow everything else to separate us from God. Oh, they don't like me. Well, that takes me a little further away from God. Oh, they talked about me. They talk about you regardless. Just know that every time you walk out of a room, they probably talk about you. Oh, I didn't get the promotion. That separates me further from God. Oh, this didn't happen. I didn't get the car I really like. Oh, I didn't get this. I didn't get this. And we allow all of these things to separate us from God. Oh, they didn't have my venti latte. God, I prayed for that. What happened? They didn't have the extreme toffee coffee. What's wrong with them? Sorry, guys, we didn't have any this morning. We ran out. It wasn't God's fault. 80 years old, and God is faithful to Daniel. Think about this. Daniel says, if he saves me, I will trust him. And if he doesn't, I will trust him. Now, I want to tell you something, is that Darius is not happy that he has to drop Daniel in a pit. He's not one of these like, hey, this is awesome. I'm going to drop him in a pit and I'm going to get rid of my best guy. You know, it's like you're trading away your best player on your team. He doesn't know what happens. And so he drops him in the pit and he goes, that's what I've got to do, what I have to do, because that's the law assigned. I think Daniel prayed and prayed and prayed. I think he worshiped. I think even when he got in the hole, when he got dropped in the pit, I think he tried to find like the darkest corner. He's like, there's got to be a place for me to hide. And then stop breathing. Maybe if I don't breathe, they won't hear me. And maybe he prayed for the lion to find a pillow, and it was the most comfortable thing ever, and it put him right to sleep. All I know is that first thing in the morning, they opened up the pit, and he was asked, did your God save you? Did God rescue you? And Daniel's response is, my God sent in his angels, and he shut the mouth of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done anything wrong before you, your majesty. And the king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den. And when Daniel was lifted from the den, no wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. The king then calls for the two administrators that had caused the issue, where he got to this point, and he threw them in the den. We're not talking about them, are we? We're not talking about how amazing that God saved them as well. Now, the thing is, I just want to be kind of clear with you, is that I think that they prayed as well. I think as they were getting thrown into the lion's den, that when they got to this point, that there was no other option. Instead of praying first, that they were praying as they were getting thrown in the hole. And I guess the reason why I bring that up, and it's not in the Bible anywhere, and so it's kind of one of those things that I just said, I think that they prayed. But I think that when we place prayer at the end of something instead of at the beginning of it, I think sometimes we know that it takes a while for God to answer some of those prayers. We know that it takes God, it takes him a little bit to brew what he's cooking in the crock pot, right? It takes a little bit to happen. And so as that's going, and all those things, he's putting things in place, by the time that the action actually has to come down or something has to happen, he's already got it all lined up, and he said, I've already taken care of it. But when we put it at the end, like they did, like, oh my God, it's hungry and it's going to eat me right now. Please help me. We didn't even give him the time to even hear the prayer sometimes. And all I say is that we just need to start putting God where he belongs, as first. He needs to be first in our lives. He needs to be first with our issues. He needs to be first with whatever's going on. We put God first. And we trust him with the results of what's going to happen. We put him in the first in everything we do, and we trust that he will deliver everywhere else. Then Darius issues a decree saying everybody should fear the God of Daniel and should pray to him. And that's where you should spend your time with. When you see what God can do and you experience it firsthand, which is what people need to start seeing with us, and they need to experience it firsthand with us. So the thing is, we get to this point, we hide our faith so much that people don't get to experience God anymore. Those non-believers, those people that are on the fence, they don't get to experience God because we've hidden it so much. We've put it in our own little place, and we have it in our own little box, And we only take it out twice a week, if we're lucky, maybe once a week. And people forget, and they don't see the amazing portion and the amazingness that God does for us. So remember something, is that when God raises you up, people are going to tear you down. They're going to try and reach back, and they're going to try and pull you down. But kneeling to pray gives you the strength to stand. And when you do what's right, you can trust God with the results. The last thing I want to remind you is that our battle is not really against flesh and blood. I want you to remember that. And so that's why we're called to pick up and put on the armor of God. We're called to put on the breastplate of righteousness. As I tell you, is that life won't get perfect. You start doing everything that God asks you to do. It won't. It's not like I said, it's not a Disney movie. But what will happen is that you know that you'll be in paradise and you'll spend eternity with God and with Jesus. And I'll be kind of frank with you, is that you get a pretty good life here too. You know, if you just follow the instructions, the basic instructions, you get a pretty good life here as well. And it's not full of steak and lobster every day. Sometimes it's full of top ramen and cup of noodle, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But it's still pretty good. It's still a very joyous occasion. Days are different when the stress is lifted off of you, because you know you did what was right. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much. Thank you for showing us that as we stand for you, that nothing will separate us. That as we stand, that you will help clear the way, that you will remove anything that is in the way, whether it's a lion or people that just want to tear us down. Father, we're thankful for every one of those obstacles and every one of these options that you've put in front of us, or every one of these circumstances that we get to take a stand, that we can step out and go, I'm going to do what you've asked me to do. I'm going to stand out, and I'm going to start taking a stand for you. Because I know I can trust you with the results. I know that if I do what is right, that you will continue to provide for me, that you will continue to give, that you will continue to protect. Father, we're so thankful that we have this chance to remove all of these things that separate us, all these things that tear us apart, that destroy the fabric between us and you. That we get this opportunity to start and go, Father, I want to walk out of here today knowing nothing is going to separate us, and I won't allow anything to get in the way, and I won't allow possessions or finances or a job or anything to get in the way of you, that I will continue to be faithful, that I will continue to love my neighbor and love you. Continue to find time to be in your presence, to continue to grow. We just keep settling, keep getting lost. We find different directions over and over again that just separate us from you. And Father, we ask that you just set the navigation and bring us to you. That you remove these man-made obstacles or these self-made obstacles, that you just start taking this out of this way to where we have this true, intimate relationship with you, this encounter. And we feel your presence. And once we have that, we just can't help but share it. Share it with our community. share it with our families, and just to love. Father, thank you. Thank you for today. Thank you for what you're doing. It's in your Son, Jesus' name, that we pray. Amen.